listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, joined by Jason Scheer. I'm Mike Luke. Elijah Rushing, let's get right down to it. The highest rated player in Arizona football history by a mile to sign with the or to commit to the University of Arizona, has committed to the University of Arizona. And Scheer, couple things. We're going to get to Jedd Fisch. We're going to get to the kudos right here. But first and foremost, this is a massive, massive, massive day for Arizona football and a great day to back the A while we're at it.
I mean, look, the best way to put this into perspective is simple. This is literally the highest rated recruit in Arizona football history. And I know there's been some dark days with Arizona football, but there's also been some pretty damn good players to come through here.
Right.
It is a historical day for Arizona football recruiting. Local kids staying home. We've seen that hasn't been the case in recent years. In my opinion, this cannot be understated. Arizona fans should be ecstatic about this.
And not only should we be ecstatic about it, this is a position of need. You have the number one defensive end in the country. If one thing that you've watched with Arizona is, guess what? They don't rush the passer very well. That's always been an issue, or at least for a long time. It's not like this is a receiver, and that's no offense to receivers. This is a defensive end. This is the kind of kid that goes to Alabama. This is the kind of kid that goes to Georgia, and he had all of those offers, and he decided that he was going to stay here and make his own legacy, which I also think, too, is him betting on himself there a little bit, Scheer. That's what I think is so interesting about this.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Arizona doesn't get players like Elijah Rushing. It just doesn't. Yeah. It's got the good skill players. You know, it got Gronk. It's got a couple corners. It got T-Mac. Linemen are basically born and bred in the SEC. Right. When you want a top defensive lineman, that's where they go. Arizona was just on TV on a graphic where a kid shows Arizona over Tennessee, Notre Dame, and Oregon.
Right.
And tons of others. Those were.
And keep in mind, that's not even – he could have gone to Bama. He could have gone to Georgia. He could have gone to any – those were just his final four.
Right. That was just his finalists. And you're right. I think you nailed it. Like, he's betting on himself. And there's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, why would you choose Arizona? They don't blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this kid is confident in himself. And I think he realizes, and his family realizes, that he's a legend in Tucson. You know, like, he's like, right. No matter how his career, as long as his career goes well, you know, he is a legend here. And he's betting on himself. He's saying, look, I think I can get to the NFL out of Arizona. I can do it in front of my friends and family every single game. And I'm showing people that it's cool to pick Arizona. You can pick Arizona.
All right, we got Sean DePaz behind the scenes. Sean, could you roll some of those highlights we got here from Huddle, and we'll go through the presser and everything. But this is what you're looking at right here. And we had Greg Biggins on yesterday. You're dealing with a guy who's 6'5". You go out there and you watch him on the football field, and he is just taller than essentially everybody else out there. And this is not, again, and he's also played his best, as you see right there. He's played his best in the camps. He's played when he's gone around other really good players. He's stuck out to the national media sorts. And that, again, is something that we'll talk a little bit about Bijan Robinson here in a little bit, because I think that's relevant to this. But, again, when he's played against the best players in the country, when he showed out right there, and granted, I get that you're in shorts and whatnot, all the dudes like Biggins, all the experts have come away very, very impressed, Scheer.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of times you go to these camps and it's bull rush and stuff like that, and you're like, you know, but Elijah Rushing has gone to these camps and dominated there as well against some of the best offensive linemen in the country. He looks great in pads, but he looks great in his performance also. There's a lot of guys that pass the eye test that can't play football. And if you watch these highlights, you can see right away, I mean, his hand technique is advanced. Like, he really uses his hands well, especially for a high school kid. And the thing that I like about him also is he's not a finished product. Like, there's still things that he could get better at. And when you recruit players in high school, that's one thing that you always look for is what I'm looking for. Is this Elijah Rushing going to be the same Elijah Rushing in 4 years? And the answer is no. He's going to be better, right? You get him college coaching and all that. And so, you know, it's a big get locally. It's a big get because what he represents. And, of course, he's a good player.
Right. And on top of that, too, he's a fantastic kid. You watch how he conducts himself. He looks like he's been there before. Not only does he look like he's been there before, it looks like he was prepped for this moment. And when your father was a tight end at University of Florida during the Steve Spurrier heyday, he's been through this before. You got somebody in there that knows how to navigate this situation. But getting him there on the field, now you start looking at the defensive ends that Arizona has here, and you got a nice little young batch. We've talked a ton about Deuce Davis, and we're both very high on him. Now you got Keona Wilhite. Now you got Elijah Rushing as well. That's three nice little not little, but that's three nice defensive ends you got right there, Scheer, and something you're not accustomed to seeing here at the U of A. Probably, at least as far as it impacts, since Brooks Reed and Ricky Elmore.
Yeah, I mean, I recently talked to an Arizona coach, and I said, it's the defensive line that it's bigger, right? And he said eventually it'll be bigger, and the quality will start to move up also. But the one thing that the coaching staff is consistent on is size, getting it done in the trenches. And we always bring up our boy. We love you, Parker Zellers. We love you, but the days of that 240-pound nose tackles is gone. You know, and you say, like, if Arizona's going to miss, they're going to miss with big dudes. But eventually what we're seeing is they're going to miss with big dudes that are highly rated. Like Wilhite, he's going to move up in the rankings.
Right.
Rushing is a top 10 player in the country. Even if he moves down a little bit for whatever reason, he's always going to be a 5-star. So, it's a situation where now you're recruiting actual quality. Right. And so it's look, man, you can't win in any conference without offensive and defensive lines. And Arizona fully recognizes that, which is something that previous coaching staffs haven't.
All right, we got to talk about Jedd Fisch here. We're going to get back to Elijah Rushing, but half the story right here, in my opinion, is Jedd Fisch. We're going to start calling him, listen, most of the time it's the great Jacob Franklin, the great Sean DePath. This time it's going to be the great Jedd Fisch right here. But first, BetMGM. Now, you might say to yourself, Mike, where could I bet on Arizona football over this year? Well, thanks for asking. Go to BetMGM. Check this out. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If it loses with BetMGM, again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now let's hear Shane Diefenbach with the disclaimer about where you would go for Arizona football betting.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
All right, Jedd Fisch. We got to talk about Jedd Fisch right here. This is a massive moment for Jedd Fisch right here because, listen, we've heard all the hollow nonsense. Scheer, you and I have been doing this a long time. Some of us look a little older than others, but we're about the same age. I love you, Scheer. I'm just kidding with you. But the one thing, though, that we do know is we've seen coaches with hollow promises come in here. Rich Rod was a great X's and O's coach. Rich Rod said all this stuff that he never ended up doing. Someone said that he was going to recruit, that he was going to be, that he was going to be catchy, all of that stuff, and it never happened. Jedd Fisch came in here, and one of his first remarks was, we're not going to get every kid, but nobody is going to outwork us on the recruiting trail. Elijah Rushing is a perfect example of that, Jason Scheer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a story in The Athletic where Rogers, the South Point coach, said that on the first day.
Very good article by Ari Wasserman, by the way.
Yes. On the first day of the recruiting period, at some point, they had a 6 a.m. workout. They opened the doors, the entire Arizona coaching staff, not just Jedd Fisch, every single coach, offense and defense, watches a lift in a warm-up.
Right.
I honestly I don't know if that's ever happened. I know that sounds stupid. Like, why wouldn't that happen? But that's what we've been dealing with at Arizona. I know the last staff didn't do it. I know Rich Rod tried with South Point a little bit, but the effort, it's all about effort. That's, in order to win at Arizona, you need to recruit. And every coach on this staff recruits. There is no dead weight with this coaching staff in
Right.
terms of recruiting. And when Jedd Fisch was hired, he said, we're going to recruit the heck out of this state. And he has. And, maybe you take guys that aren't rated as highly in the state, and maybe you eventually build there. And a lot has been made of Arizona landing Cruz Rushing. Cruz Rushing was going to Oregon. Arizona, right? And so, that's a big deal too. And now Arizona likes Cruz Rushing, but obviously it helps with Elijah. Like every move that the Arizona coaching staff makes with recruiting is a calculated move. And
For sure.
If a guy decommits, whatever they know what they're doing. They have backup plans. They're organized. It's just Jedd Fisch made promises, and now he's got to win on the field. But in terms of recruiting, he's delivered on all of them.
He's delivered on all of them. We're going to get to the in-state recruiting aspect there in a second because I think that's very impressive. By the way, Tony Clifton might have the nickname for Jedd Fisch. Most people hate my nicknames. I think they're fantastic. The Jedi. Scheer, that's not bad.
Better than your nicknames.
That's not bad. Tony Clifton, we like that a great deal right there. That's good. But with Jedd Fisch, though, the other thing, too, when we had Eric Rogers on before, he said, listen, man, he said, there's always a coach down here. There's always something. When someone was here, and I know I like making fun of this, but we're going to make fun of it again. You had DeMarco Murray show up, and he's wearing the skinny jeans, looking cool, and then he just heads off, never to be seen from again. With the U of A, they are relentless in what they do here. And again, you're not going to get every kid, but they're going to make you say no to the very, very end right there, Scheer.
And here's the thing that I think people don't really realize. A lot of the whispering or talking was about Oregon. After the Tennessee visit, it was about Tennessee. Arizona has felt really good about this for a while now.
Right.
And a good portion of it is the effort and the reaction to the effort that was being put in. I don't want to say Elijah Rushing chose Arizona just because it's a hometown school. But it helps when a kid can go visit Tennessee, and the first thing he sees when he gets back is the Arizona coaching staff.
Right.
Because a lot of times after a visit, you're excited, there's a high, but now there's Arizona. Elijah Rushing, how many spring practices was this kid at? 10?
Yeah, and the thing about it, too, is that he's got an open invite. All those kids, Keona Wilhite said the same thing. The coaching staff, not only do you have an open invite, they want you to show up. They want to know when you're going to be coming, when you're going to be, there, because they want to treat you right.
And it's not just Elijah Rushing shows up and watches a practice. There's a coach with him or a staffer of some sort. You have a question, we're answering it.
Right.
You want to ask Jedd something after practice, you go right on ahead. Like we have seen Jedd meet with recruits, and then, we've seen things where like Elijah Rushing goes to practice and Pete Carroll gives the team a post-game speech.
Right.
Or Bill Belichick is sitting watching practice, and to the media, you're like, is that Pete Carroll? Is that Bill Belichick? But imagine what it means to like a 5-star lineman with aspirations to play in the NFL when Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick and guys like that, you're talking to him after practice. And at first we were like, oh, there's Jedd Fisch name dropping. And he is a name dropper, 100%. But
it works, man.
It works, and you're bringing these guys to practice. So
Scheer and I got to eat some crow on this as well, because, again, anybody that said that they loved the Jedd Fisch hire initially outside of Bobby Robbins and Dave Hickey is lying to you. Do not listen to them. But Scheer and I remember after the first presser, the second presser, we're both, listen, we want Jedd Fisch to do well.
We used to have bets on how many names he would drop.
There's no other way to put it. We used to have bets on how many names Jedd Fisch would bring up. How many times will you bring up Bill Belichick? All of that stuff. But at the end of the day, not only are these people in his corner, Bill Belichick, let's be honest, is not coming out to Tucson if he doesn't have some kind of use for Jedd Fisch. Neither is Pete Carroll sending his kid off to all of that. And so, again, that's a real reflection, though, on what Jedd Fisch has had to do. And, again, he's been able to play this one masterfully, especially with the social media game, which we're going to get to in just a second. By the way, do you think that Elijah Rushing is going to Circle K today?
I would assume that's the first place he's going.
Listen, Elijah Rushing, when he's leaving South Point, there are Circle Ks. There are multiple Circle Ks. I would assume that he's not going to the Grant Oracle one, but I would assume that he's probably going to the one on Speedway. If you want to see Elijah Rushing, maybe you go to Circle K, maybe you don't, but either way, they got great deals. Make sure you're not missing out on the great stuff right now. Text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club and get a buy one, get one free offer on a 32-ounce Polar Pop. Head to CircleK.com/store locator for more details. All right. Now, the other thing that Fisch has done that was great here is the little things. Like you mentioned before, Cruz Rushing. Cruz Rushing is probably not a Power 5 Division I football player in its purest form, as far as being a guy that is one of the 11 or in the two deep. But he is a good enough football player that at the very least you can have him be a special teams demon, a special teams ace. And you might also reel in his brother as well. That's another thing. Again, it's a small detail to some, but it's something that Jedd Fisch, Matt Doherty, who I'm going to let you give some kudos to here in a minute, certainly knew about and certainly factored in right there, Scheer.
Yeah, and I mean, look, again, I want to say it's, the Arizona coaching staff with Cruz Rushing, it's not a case of like this dude just sucks, right? Like they believe he could be on special teams just to start, and they do believe that he'll play. But the fact that you say, look, even if he plays one snap his entire career, but he's going to help you land the highest rated player. You take we see it in basketball all the time. Look at Tubelis, right? Like you do it when you're trying to get certain type of players, you do it, right? It's just the way things are, and so Arizona saw it, and it's the little things. It's not, it's paying attention to details. How important, and look, Cruz Rushing was at today's announcement in full Arizona gear.
Right.
And
he was back in the A.
Yeah, he was back. That means something. And it means something to the family that now they can go and watch both kids on the same field. If you know the Rushing family, it's a great group of people. And for them to be able to go to Arizona Stadium and watch their two sons play, that means a lot to them.
For sure. And it should mean, by the way, Tony Altimore, our good friend Tony Altimore, who said that SMU is out recruiting Arizona, might want to go back and look at the rankings after this one. Jose L. Roman, I know you're terrified about the assigning. This kid is going to the University of Arizona. He's going to the University of Arizona. I would be beyond shocked if he did. So I'm not at all worried about that right there, because again, they had all kinds of different options right here that if they wanted them. Now, let's talk about the NIL a little bit, because I can tell you that Oregon was in there, and I feel very comfortable reporting this, that Oregon was in there for around $500,000, perhaps a little bit more. Arizona, I'm not saying that they were able to match that, but Arizona was clearly able to come up with something competitive along with selling the in-city type plane for Elijah Rushing, Scheer.
Yeah, I don't like it. You're the numbers guy.
I am the numbers guy. Call me the numbers guy.
I'm not a big numbers guy because there's so much BS that comes along with it. But I'll say this. There is no world where Arizona outbid Oregon.
Right.
So here's how this played out. Oregon finally, whatever. We'll give some inside scoop. Elijah Rushing committed to Arizona on Saturday. Okay? He committed to Arizona on Saturday. It took Oregon a few days to figure that out. Oregon figures that out yesterday morning, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of articles saying momentum has shifted and all that. Well, what happened was Oregon started telling people that he's going to Arizona. Well, how does Oregon cover up for the fact that they just lost a recruiting battle to Arizona? They tell everyone that they just weren't going to pay as much money as Arizona was, and they just couldn't compete financially. Give me a break. Like, come on, man. And so Arizona did well with NIL. Absolutely, NIL was a factor. Of course it was. You're not telling Elijah Rushing you're not getting anything come to Arizona. This day and age, you got to pay kids. But the idea that they paid more than Oregon is just asinine.
Well, not only is it that, and the people around the U of A, listen, it's a developing NIL program for sure. But nobody in the hierarchy at Arizona is going to tell you that this is a next level NIL program. That's what USC has. That's what Oregon has. So the whole idea that Arizona somehow outbid Oregon is just absolutely, as you would say, as you said, Jason Scheer, asinine right there. So Now, let's talk more about what this means, though. And I think a big part of this, and here's the difference between Jedd Fisch and his previous or his predecessor. The difference between Jedd Fisch and Kevin Sumlin is this. Kevin Sumlin had a 5-star running back right down the street from him in Bijan Robinson. Kevin Sumlin looked for reasons not to recruit Bijan Robinson and Lathan Ransom. Well, we can't get him. It's just going to be a waste of time. We'll go find the kid from UL Monroe. Jedd Fisch comes in and says, no, we're going to recruit them until the very last possibility, and we're going to make Elijah Rushing and Keona Wilhite feel like they need to be part of this Arizona program, and it paid dividends. You don't know if you don't try.
The Bijan Robinson recruitment, look, do I think Bijan would have gone to Arizona? Probably not. Now, you still got to put in effort. Like Arizona, this coaching staff has recruited people. The Jedd Fisch coaching staff has recruited guys that it was pretty sure wasn't going to Arizona, right? Because you have to put in the effort. And like, again, you know, like there's relationships to be made in recruiting. If you recruit Bijan, maybe you see a younger guy that's there and you recruit. To only go for one, I could tell you that if Keona Wilhite and Elijah Rushing weren't on South Point this year, Arizona would still stop by South Point every open recruiting period.
It'd be the T-Mac situation where you're going to keep recruiting them till the very end because you don't know what could happen or what doors that could open up for you.
You just have to. I can't think of a major. Can you imagine ASU not going to Scottsdale Saguaro to recruit?
Correct.
Not even stopping by. Can you imagine UCLA not going to Bosco? Like, that's what we're talking about here. Like, it's if you have a great football high school in your area, you better be there recruiting it, whether there's guys there or not.
Right, for sure. And Andre Veras, our buddy Andre Veras, who, by the way, texted me asking me for information. Guess what he called you yesterday, Scheer, via text?
What do you call me?
Scheer. Andre, that scored a lot of points with me right there. But this is actually, it's a good question. It's a fairly easy answer. Basically, the players want to give the coaching staffs generally a little bit of a heads up as to what's going to go on. But at the same time, they also are a lot of times they're a little bit hesitant to tell people for exactly the same reason that Oregon, that Elijah Rushing probably regrets telling Oregon, is that you can also have coaches that can kind of rain on that parade right there. And that's exactly what happened with Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, look, if you notice, a lot of times I'll hint with commits. I didn't hint with Rushing at all. It's out of respect to the family. You know, it's a great family who's handled everything right. And I still don't tend to do that with kids that commit to other schools. Like, usually you know, like, when a kid is committing, where they're committing to and all that. But it's the kid's moment. Like, let them have, like, this is something they earn. And it's just, they deserve this. Yeah, they deserve it. It's like, why are you ruining a kid's announcement because he didn't choose your school? Come on.
Right, I know, and it's super, super lame at this point. Also, by the way, Mountain Mike's Pizza. Scheer, when was the last time you went to Mountain Mike's? We know that you're a fanatic.
It's been a little bit, but I maybe I'll go tonight to celebrate.
All right, head over to mountainmikespizza.com or to their Mesa, Chandler, or Tucson locations to place your next order. A reminder, new diehards get a $50 voucher upon signing up. Mountain Mike's Pizza. Again, Mountain Mike's Pizza is so big that they are in Sacramento. And Scheer, Ben, and myself were driving, and I think, was it Ben or was it you that spotted the Mountain Mike's, and we didn't even know it was there?
I spotted it from hundreds of feet away.
That's how big the movement is, and the movement will not be stopped. Now, with Elijah Rushing, obviously there, now you got Keona Wilhite as well. I know that there's one person on your board that's trying to say that Wilhite will leave now because of Rushing. I do not believe that. This is, for all intents and purposes, Jedd Fisch getting the players that he needs, especially on that D-line, because I think we're at the stage now where we know. I mean, let's be honest. We know that Jedd Fisch is going to put together a good offense. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. It's about being able to kind of load up on that defense. You got a loaded linebacker core now with Justin Flo, Jacob Manu, Leviticus Sua. Now you can start getting those defensive linemen in there, maybe by Big Bill Norton as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of a sudden like it goes back to Jedd Fisch gets it, right? Like, and even in this class, there's other. I mean, Tui Halamaka is a big dude.
Right.
Bill Norton, like you mentioned this year, you look at the line overall of guys this year, size, right? It goes back to size. Like Jacob Kongaika, huge. Norton, huge. Manoa this year, big dude, right? And surprised us during the spring because I'll be honest, I thought Manoa was going to come in and not be very good.
No, Manoa's good. Manoa's going to start.
Yeah, and so like it just look at and you know what? Even beyond the size thing, like look at Isaiah Ward. Right. Where'd that come from, right? And all of a sudden, there's a good chance that Isaiah Ward starts. Like, there's a real chance. And
you and I heard the same thing on that one. I like that, Scheer.
Arizona knows what it's doing, and there's a difference with like Rich Rod used to recruit 3-star recruits with no Power 5 offers, and be like, "What are we?" And you'd be like,
"Right,
OKG, love that term," and they wouldn't pan out. They just weren't there. But all the guys that Arizona is bringing in, even the 3 stars of Power 5 offers, that's what you always look for. And they're evaluating well. They're in the portal well. Everything. They just get it.
Well, let's look. I mean, you can look at a bunch of different examples of players, but like you said, when you look at players, you want to see what their offers are because, again, you're going to recruit big dudes. And you and I mean, I'm going to tell the Ben White story here again that really cracks me up. That really shows you how bad recruiting was under someone. So this is before Scheer.
Jarrett Bell. It was Jarrett Bell.
Okay, Jarrett Bell. Scheer and I actually used to work, or Scheer and I, Ben and I actually used to work for Scheer before he fired us and kicked us to the curb. And that's where Saul Bookman took pity on me. I appreciate you, Saul. You're a much better boss than Scheer. But Ben White and I would have to call recruits. It was the worst part of the job ever because you would always be interviewing a kid that was looking at Arizona and also considering Wichita State, Tulane, all of this stuff. Tell Brogan to buzz off. But we're talking, Ben calls Jarrett Bell, a kid who somehow went on an Arizona visit just because his buddy was going on the visit as well. And the first thing that Ben asks him is he says, well, what do you think about Arizona and the visit? And Jarrett Bell says, there's like this long pause. And he goes, oh, I would never go to Arizona. Are you kidding me? That's what it was. You had kids that were taking visits that weren't even considering going to Arizona, Scheer.
Like, you wound up at Alabama, and like, you didn't say it out loud, but you're like,
right.
Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Like, yeah. And I've had kids in the past, and to be fair, I think like 1 or 2 kids have done this under Jedd, where I've contacted them, and they're like, yeah, I'm not going there.
Right.
And usually it's a favor, right? But
it's also embarrassing in hindsight that you're having kids taking up official visits that are telling a reporter point blank, oh, I would never go to Arizona.
Yeah, while on the visit. I think he was like in the airport.
Yes. And Ben was better at this than I was because Ben would actually record the interviews. I just used my train of thought right there. I remember Ben showing me this, and I was like, oh, my gosh, that's embarrassing. Jedd Fisch would not do that poor WILDCAT Mario Mesa, as the kids say, IYKYK right there. But defense now. So let's talk about this, though, a little bit. Defensive line, though. What do you look for in that first year coming in? Because both the Will Hyde and Rushing are playing. Because it's not like you have, again, I like Deuce Davis a great deal. You like Deuce Davis a great deal. But that's one pass rusher right there. I think this is going to be kind of a 3-man unit right there. And it's going to be those 3, and you're going to let them take their bumps and bruises.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're going to have depth. Which is wild to say. Like, you'd look at Deuce and Will Hyde and Rushing and all that. I mean, that is as legit as Arizona's had. You know, I was looking for my podcast yesterday. I got curious, and I was looking at freshman defensive line stats. And, like, it is really hard to put up numbers as a freshman defensive end. I think I don't remember his name, but he was like the 3rd best player in the country last season. And for A&M, he played, and he had 17 tackles and 4 sacks.
Right.
And I realize there's a difference between A&M and Arizona and rotation and snaps and all that. But I don't think people should expect Elijah Rushing to come in and have like 10 sacks as a freshman.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. But putting pressure on the quarterback, get a couple sacks, get some tackles. There's areas he has to get better in. He's not great against the run right now. I think he needs to get a little stronger there. But I just don't see a scenario where he doesn't come in and start from day one.
Yeah, and Greg Biggins said on there, he said, I expect him to be kind of in your traditional line of defensive ends that go to college for 3 years and then they're off to the NFL. And, Greg Biggins is not a man of hyperbole. Greg Biggins is a very smart man, but not a man of hyperbole. Is this, by the way, the Scheer, you wanted to talk a little bit about in-state recruiting, a little bit more signal caller, perhaps?
Yeah, so our buddy Blair and Gulo kind of said it on our.
By the way, I called this one a year ago. You got to give me full credit on this.
I will. So I'm not saying nothing's guaranteed in recruiting, but Demond Williams, there's rumors. So Ole Miss, if you're not aware, a couple of weeks ago, maybe last month, I think they took that kid that reclassified by like 2 years. And so he's now ahead of Williams. They have another guy coming in. They basically have 3 quarterback commits in the class is the way it pretty much lines up. Arizona only takes 1 quarterback a class. And that guy is they've been on Demond Williams. The commitment from that other kid only helped their case. I think they're very much in it. You never know. He hasn't decommitted, but they're very much in it. And I could say that he was paying very close attention to today's events.
Do you want to give your senior editor Scott Schlittenhart any kudos on this year?
Scott was on it. Scott, the people look. If you're not a member of Wildcat Authority, it's not always me. There's other, there's Scott. There's Too Easy Jay. There's people that come in from all necks of the woods, and they've got inside info.
Right, and that's just the way it is. So that's where you want to go now. Next move, then. One thing that I think a lot of people have been worried about is Jedd Fisch. And is he going to get too successful and then head off? I think that this could be a turning point here, Scheer, for a couple different reasons. First of all, I believe this is going to be about a 7-win team this year. You do as well, by the way. Get onto BetMGM on this. But the next year, then, let's just assume Arizona gets 7 wins. Let's have fun because it's not like Arizona football could ever disappoint. So let's have fun right here. If Arizona then. You got a loaded roster then because that awesome 2022 class, almost all those dudes are juniors at that point then. If you get solid quarterback play, you could be looking at a 9 or a 10-win team theoretically with getting Elijah Rushing. Does this also show as well that maybe Jedd Fisch can win really, really big here? Just saying.
If I was Jedd Fisch, and this might actually be what he was doing, I would be on the phone with every big booster related to Arizona and saying, look, man, you give me my NIL and I can compete with the big boys.
Right.
And again, this recruitment wasn't NIL, but what I'm saying is Jedd is of the full and correct belief that in order to reach a certain level with Arizona, the financial support and the admin support have to be stronger than it's ever been. The admin support is stronger than it's ever been. Every position that
is that a shout out to Dave Hickey?
Absolutely. Every position that Jedd has asked for, he has gotten. This recruiting department is the biggest that we've seen by far, right? They outbid Colorado and a couple other schools for Armon Hawkins, for instance, which has paid off.
Would you take a job in the recruiting department?
I tried once. You know that I tried to get a job when Mike Stoops was hired?
And what did he say?
He didn't even give me an interview.
That's why he's living with his brother right now. Go ahead.
Now what's funny is the cool thing is to hire like analysts. Like you got like multiple analysts as agents and NBA front offices and all that. Like Brian Snow has a job with Penn State. So
for sure.
Go ahead. But it's now it's NIL and eventually Arizona, like Jedd has to win, right?
Right.
He has to win. Now, if Jedd goes out this season and wins 8 games, and then everyone is coming back, but he gets an offer from like a Missouri type, I don't think he takes it.
Isn't that a lateral move?
Right. It's now you wait another year and you get 10 or 9 wins and you want to leave. Hey, I get it.
Right.
Because look, at the end of the day, I love Arizona football. You love Arizona football, but there's still levels to this game.
Yeah, for sure.
And if Michigan, comes and calls Jedd Fisch and offers him $5 billion a year, Jedd Fisch is going to Michigan. Right. There's nothing Arizona can do. There's some schools there's nothing Arizona can do. But I think today, at least lets Jedd think twice and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can win here. And now eventually again that has to translate, but he just landed a top 10 player at Arizona.
Dennis Walsh, interesting question right there. We're going to get to in a second. But first, could there be a new Four Peaks movement on the defensive line, Scheer?
Ooh, that's a good idea.
All right, so who would the Peaks be?
The defensive end would be pretty good.
All right, so you got Elijah Rushing, you got Keona Wilhite, you got Deuce Davis. We need a fourth end to join the Peaks.
You just said Dylan Anderson should switch sports. Isn't that what you said?
Oh, that's what you said. You're trying to cheap shot your way into getting Dylan Anderson out of Arizona athletics. We see what you've done, and you failed to this point, Scheer.
Fendi did it.
Dylan Anderson playing football. Come on. That's
not Dylan. Julius Peppers did it.
Now, let's say that you might want to go see ASU and Syracuse alum Sean somewhere, and you might say to yourself, where could I see Sean? You might be able to find him at Four Peaks. And again, the reason you're Four Peaks is because it's cool. There's good stuff. Sean is a leader of men, as we've talked about before. Check out Four Peaks Brew or Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest on Arizona's hometown brewery. You must be 21 years or up to drink Four Peaks. Please drink responsibly. All right, now you got the Dylan Anderson haters coming in here. Guys, Dylan Anderson is going to be a great player at Arizona. He is going to be what Duke Brennan could have been at ASU. That's for you, Sean, right there. The Sean Elliott comparison, I get this a lot. I don't go anywhere near that, to be honest with you, because Sean Elliott is the greatest player in Pac-10, Pac-12 history post Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. By any metric, National Player of the Year, leading scorer, all of that, best player in Arizona history. Elijah Rushing would essentially have to be Julius Peppers for that to occur.
And I'll say this too, that it's so much different in basketball. There's 5 guys, and I always say the basketball recruiting, you can land one superstar and be super good right away. Football, there's so many moving parts. And if Elijah Rushing, this sounds bad, but if Elijah Rushing was a top 5 quarterback in the country, maybe I could buy it a little bit because of the impact a quarterback has on a game. But the reality is, as good as Elijah Rushing is as a defensive end, while he is going to impact the game, he would have to be so good to change the trajectory of Arizona's program as a whole that it's hard for me to compare it to Sean Elliott.
Yeah,
Sean Elliott changed Arizona basketball forever.
All right, Scott Schlittenhart, your guy Scott Schlittenhart just hopped in here. He says he just got shouted out. But again, that's the community, though, that you have with Arizona athletics. When you got Scheer and senior editor Scott Schlittenhart, I mean, these two work together. These are like peanut butter and jelly, Jason Scheer.
Yeah, Scott's good people, and
you got the columns coming back then this football season as well, for sure.
With you and him highlighting all the stuff should be good, and I mean, look, I love the Wildcat Authority community. I love it.
All right, Sean, can we get to the announcement of Elijah Rushing right there with announcing that he's going to back the A?
In consultation with my loved ones, I have decided to commit to the Arizona Wildcats.
The number 1 rated defensive lineman in the country. I don't think that ASU has ever gotten those in the recruiting rankings. Maybe Terrell Suggs, but that was before Sean was even born. So this is something that ASU is used to get. ASU's used to getting, or not ASU's used to getting, USC's used to getting, Alabama's used to getting, Georgia's used to getting, Arizona's not used to getting this. And again, too, like we just talked about, Scheer, the kid bet on himself. And that to me is a big part of all this is the kid bet on himself. It would have been easy to go anywhere else. He would have gotten more money. He's going to be a big fish in a small pond at Arizona, and we're going to find out what he can do.
I just looked this up. ASU has got to 2 5-stars in their school history, so only one more than Arizona.
Let me guess.
Okay.
N'Keal Harry.
Nope. The first one one of them is really obvious when you think about it.
Oh, Vontaze Burfict, duh.
Yes, that's number 1. He was the 11th best player in the country. He is the highest rated ASU recruit ever.
Ooh, Elijah Rushing higher rated than Vontaze Burfict, Sean.
Number 2? Tight end?
Oh, Zach Miller.
Yeah.
All right. But again, tight end, that's an auxiliary position right there. We don't even want tight ends around. We already got Tanner McLaughlin. We already got Kean Burnett. We don't need players like Zach Miller, Scheer.
Arizona is a tight end factory.
Again, you know what's funny about it? We're actually kind of joking, but we're also kind of not. Tanner McLaughlin can play in the NFL.
NFL. McLaughlin, NFL.
Brandon Manamuliana played 12 years.
Burnett, I think eventually it will be an NFL prospect. Brad Wood, before he drove all that marijuana, he was solid.
Dude, there is so much good stuff. Brad Wood from Sabino High School, by the way.
If you don't know that story, Google it. It's awesome.
By the way, so again, we got to talk though a little bit about the decision-making process that brought in tight end you right there. I like that, Brad Rich. We got to talk a little bit about the decision-making process though. And I've talked with Dave a lot about I've talked with Dave. but he said, and this does kind of resonate though, Scheer, and that you need somebody that wants to be here. And that unfortunately, I think Dilly was a good hire for ASU, but he's copying what Jedd Fisch is doing. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, obviously. But Jedd Fisch is doing everything possible to win here. He's not cutting corners, and that's something that matters at the end of the day, Scheer.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I'm even supposed to say this, but if you guys remember, I'm going to brag a little bit. I put Jedd Fisch's name out there first, and people freaked out. And I didn't break it. Schefter broke it.
You didn't like it either, Scheer. You put it out, but you didn't like it.
I didn't like it. No, I didn't like it at all. But the way I found out basically was because someone on the Patriots with the connection to Arizona went around telling a few Arizona people. And that kicker, you could probably figure out who it was at the time, said that Jedd Fisch really, really wanted the job. And that player supported Jedd. And it wasn't BS. It was Jedd's kid win at Arizona. Was super high. People close to Jedd believe that he could win. It was the people like you and me that were like, what?
Yeah. You got to look at it. You look at his track record, and that's why this is such an amazing hire, because let's be honest, the track record is
there was no tangible proof to think that Jedd Fisch would win at Arizona. And that's not an insult to him. It's just you can look, and he had successful coordinator jobs, but then he would leave, never been a head coach, things like that. But it was never you could point, to other guys that were on the list, you could point and go yes, this guy has won here and there and whatever. Jedd just didn't have that resume.
You wanted Ken N, Scheer. You want to take that back?
And now he's fired, and he's a special advisor to UCLA. And look at Brent Brennan. A lot of people wanted him, and he hasn't been good as of late.
Scheer, what kind of shorts do you wear?
I don't know. Target.
Have you ever thought about wearing bird dogs?
I haven't heard of it, but I am now. I'm going to Google
bird dogs. Sean, hop in here. You're a fashion aficionado. Hop in here, Sean. Come on, Sean. Watch this. Sean's going to speak for Sean. Talk a little bit about our veteran producer, Sean DePaz. Sean, talk a little bit about bird dogs. You're a man of style and substance.
Yes, sir. They're the most. You can't go wrong with khakis, right? Because basically anything goes wrong with khakis. So they have nice khaki shorts, but they're a more stretchy, comfortable fit. They have the lining built into them. Kind of a compression short lining built into them. They are genuinely the most comfortable shorts I've ever worn.
Sean, could they make me look cool?
Yes. Yes.
That is an impossible job, and that's where Bird Dogs comes in right here.
They can make you look good.
All right. Again, appreciate you, Sean, vouching for Bird Dogs right there. All right. Go to birddogs.com /PHNX to enter promo code PHNX for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com /PHNX or promo code PHNX for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take Bird Dogs. You're going to want to take this. Guarantee it.
I know. Right.
Scheer spends his money on fly-ass Nikes, on the pink Nikes, Scheer, that you were wearing in Section 7.
Yeah, I'm going to Vegas this week, and I'm probably going to buy another pair. There's a sneaker con this weekend.
All right. Now, but in summation, though, joking aside, this is the biggest day in Arizona football history when it comes to recruiting. It just is. I don't care if Elijah Rushing becomes Julius Peppers or if he becomes. I don't want to say Lewis Holmes, although I just said it. It doesn't matter to me, though. It shows too that this program is at a point now where you can bring in certain players and who can go anywhere they want. And you've got a father in George Rushing who has been at the highest level that feels comfortable sending his kid off there as well. This is just big time stuff all the way across the board, Scheer.
Yeah, there's no way to downplay it. You know, a lot of times we'll downplay commitments, you know, and I'm not doing it with this one. This is literally the biggest recruiting day in Arizona football history.
How many subscribers will you get off of this day today, Scheer?
More the merrier. Hopefully
All right.
We're running a deal. 60% off. We're celebrating. WildcatAuthority.com.
All right. G-Rod, you're obviously a smart man. You're going to go and buy some bird dogs right now. Very smart. I'm 44 minutes late, but just need to say Tucson is better than Eugene and Knoxville in every metric. We agree with you right there. All right. But again, Rushing Jersey is not out yet. We will be back with you tomorrow, though, at 12:30, breaking this all down. Scheer, you're the man. Elijah Rushing, you are the man. We're going to try to get him on next week. We've had Elijah on a few times, talk about the commitment. But just a great day to back the A, Scheer, correct?
Always a great day, right? Real, say back the A.
Real, come in.
Real,
Come here. Don't be camera shy. Come on.
Tell the people, back the A.
Back the A.
That's what we're talking about. You know, we're going to get a clip out of that as well because we're going to put her right next to when Jedd Fisch can't really keep his straight face saying, bear down and back the A. But, all right, everybody out there, we'll be back with you tomorrow. Appreciate all of your remarks. We're going to go into depth, into detail. This was a fantastic day. For Jason Scheer, I am Mike Luke. Sean behind the scenes, vouching for bird dogs, making us look cooler than we should. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Back the A, baby. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.